Did everybody see the moment of panic on his face when he Hi, I'm Dennis Murphy, and my wife Debbie and I are members of the parish for about 7 years now. Let me take a few minutes today to tell you where I come from, where I am now, and where I hope to see myself going in my lifelong faith journey. I was born and raised in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. If any of you were raised in the Northeast and the Rust Belt, you may know my story. It was a blue-collar town at the time with deep immigrant roots. Coal mines and steel mills drew workers from Eastern Europe, Italy, Ireland, and they sustained generations of families and workers. My family was one of those generations. My grandfathers and uncles worked in the coal mines and steel mills. My dad worked in Bethlehem Steel in the blast furnace, arguably one of the most difficult and dangerous jobs in the mines. When I was a kid growing up in Johnstown, everybody was Catholic. At least everybody I knew was Catholic. Think about where we came from. Every neighborhood, it seemed, had a Catholic church. And every Catholic church, it seemed, had a grade school associated with it. I see some nods out there. You know where I'm coming from. That was our normal. And so my normal was to attend Catholic school under the supervision of the Good Sisters of Charity, and then move on to Bishop McCord High School. Now, I would love to tell you that my family said the rosary every night or every week, for that matter. We didn't. I would love to tell you we had deep discussions about religion and Jesus around the dinner table. We didn't. I would love to tell you we read the Bible at home, but we didn't. I'm not sure if we had a family Bible. But what we did do was say grace before meals. We said our prayers before we went to bed at night. And we went to Mass faithfully on Sundays. And that's a gift every year at Christmas time to the garbage collectors. And when I asked him why, he said, there is dignity in all honest work, and it must be recognized. My parents taught me how to treat my fellow man, and I think in teaching me so, they taught me how to best love God on earth. And perhaps in giving back like that, they gave me my first glimpse into stewardship. I went off to college after high school, and then I went into the Army for 27 years. I married Deb in 1980. Best decision I ever made. And we raised, you like that, Hans? And we raised 3 children together over that time. We were busy. Those of you who are retired remember those days. Those of you who have young families out there are living it right now. We moved 17 times during my military career. Every time we moved, or almost every time, there was a new parish, usually on an Army post, usually run by a military chaplain pastor. I still went to Mass faithfully, as did my family, but it was, I guess, maybe understandably hard to connect to a parish. And it got to the point where I felt that going to Mass was simply fulfilling an obligation. I would leave Mass with no memory of what the sermon was, no memory of what the readings were, many times. I was there, but I wasn't really there. Now, stewardship, of course, is gratefully giving back, and so the Army tended to be a launching board for me to become a good steward. The Army meant that I was serving a greater cause than myself, that I was setting aside personal desires and needs for the good of my soldiers and for the nation. And I was giving back to our nation. I took that responsibility very seriously. When we were assigned to one town, I joined the Rotary Club. That was 19 years ago. Rotary's call to action is service above self, and they serve the needs of communities, the nation, and the world. As such, that's another step on my path to stewardship. But having taken these steps on my journey, I had not fully applied that concept to my faith. I currently live in Sneads Ferry, And Sneads Ferry is about equidistant from 3 Catholic faith communities: Infinite Prague, All Saints, and I'm eligible to attend the military parishes at Camp Lejeune. When we came here, we knew, but we sure hoped, as we do now, that we would be here until we died. And so for the first time in my life, in our lives, we shopped for a church. And we ended up in All Saints. Why? Well, from the minute we walked in here, we felt welcomed. Very warmly welcomed. We were greeted with a smile. There seemed to be a culture of joy here, and it was infectious. Mass was amazing. People actively participated. They sang joyfully. They prayed together, and no one headed for the exits after communion. How refreshing is that? And I observed, listened, and was drawn in. I listened to the readings and was inspired to think by the sermons. I joined in praise through song, and very quickly I found that Mass was no longer an obligation, but a joyful and important experience in my life. And in recognizing that, I felt a need to give back to God for opening my eyes to this beautiful experience. And I slowly moved from passive participation to active stewardship. I became a cantor to share the gift of my voice with others to help them pray. I was invited and accepted opportunities to serve on the pastoral committee and the new facilities committee. Debbie joined the hospitality committee. I think we're all here for a reason. My prayer is that your reason is that you believe you are a part of something greater than yourself. That it is so important to you that you feel moved to give back to God for what He has given to you. We all have unique gifts to give, and I invite you to prayerfully consider your gifts and actively participate as stewards to our faith community. My faith journey continues and will for the rest of my life. The stewardship seeds planted by my parents are finally beginning to blossom. I pray I can continue to nourish them as I grow in the grace of the Eucharist with you. Thank you.